What is the most important part of a story? Almost everyone is probably aware of the typical structure: exposition, inciting incident, rising action, climax, then falling action, then your conclusion. But what's the most important part to get right? The inciting incident is what gets the audience interested. Climaxes are supposed to have that perfect peak of action and excitement, no pun intended. And maybe the answer depends. Maybe it's all equally important. But the only way to really know and understand the importance of a certain part of a story is knowing when it fails. For Arcane and Detroit Become Human, their failures are in the same part: their endings. After all, if a story doesn't have a good ending, then what's the point of the story in the first place? What is all of the excitement and fear and pain of a story, especially a revolutionary story, even for? Is it all for nothing? Is revolution for nothing? You can agree or disagree on whether or not Arcane or Detroit Become Human are good or bad or any which way in the comments. In fact, please do. I like hearing you guys' opinions, even if I disagree. But if you've read or seen or played any piece of dystopian media at all, you've definitely seen how bad they can be. Why is this? And in $30 million budget video games like Detroit Become Human, it's when the heart of a story and its political meaning is replaced with emotional spectacle and decoration instead. Both Arcane and Detroit Become Human tell very beautiful stories. The graphics on DBH are of a caliber you still can't see in most popular video games, not to mention a story game. After all, they had $30 million to spend, so were they going to make a point and click? And Arcane, on the other hand, is one of the most revolutionary pieces of animation to come out in the 21st century. I would genuinely be a huge hypocrite to say this is a negative part of the story. The stylized animation of everything looking painted has become almost unforgettable amongst the audience and been one of the pieces to set off an animation renaissance because of it. But then there's the writing. Detroit had $30 million, but only had one writer on the whole game, David Cage. Arcane's animation quality may have stayed consistent across both of the show seasons, but the coherence of their writing actually takes a nosedive in the second, especially by the end. Beauty, however, serves as a great distraction away from this, one that isn't confined to the graphics and animation of both pieces of media. They both have very interesting and pretty world building, all of these little details put in to wow the audiences and show how elaborate these other worlds are that their characters live in. Behind it, however, the depth wavers. The systemic issues that are supposed to lie underneath are instead transformed into personal drama for the audience. I mean, watching a group of people suffer from bad air quality or unfair labor expectations is kind of incredibly bleak, especially in today's day and age. Like, who wants to watch that? So they're instead delivered like a soap opera. Hara's storyline, especially her introduction, lacks any address towards the true problems that drive her situation. Domestic oppression, the androids' experience of womanhood, and how androids worsened the job market and economy to the point where many lower class and even like lower middle class people are put into abject poverty. And that's just the main three. There's more that I could go on. But past these facts being exposed to us, they're never really taken much of anywhere. And then on Arcane's side, the writers take the intense barriers in Caitlin and Vi's relationship, the interclass dynamic, Kate's privilege, and police brutality, and it just serves as romantic tension. Their relationship is robbed of its depth, which is so unfair. Is the conclusion that they're given one of love or assimilation? Fundamentally, it's difficult to balance the messy morals of oppression and revolution with having likable characters and a story an audience wants to continue taking in. So we use an illusion to explain the oppression in the first place, chalking it up to a misunderstanding. Both sides just need to talk it out and everything will be fixed. That way we can have a neat and tidy conclusion, characters can stay lovable and they don't have to do anything bad, and we don't have to sully the audience's moral compass by seeing struggling people lash out in unappealing ways. We can punish players in Detroit for acting violently by only guaranteeing total liberation of androids under pacifism. We can see characters like Vi and Jace perform a raid on Zahn, but they stop before they take it too far, like the good people they are. The stories never get too messy, morally speaking. Writing speaking, it's all over the place. But the neat and tidy worlds behind each piece match their very pretty visuals in the end. However, reducing a revolution to its beauty doesn't just make the story shallow, it sacrifices the entire piece's complexity and dimension in the first place. And as an effect, it also ends up sacrificing the story's core integrity. The lack of depth in these stories aren't just because of vaguely bad writing or not enough people on the writers' team. It's just the end result of a shallow philosophy that drove the main themes of each piece in the first place. When you take out everything that bolsters a revolution, what is your fictional revolution supposed to rely on? The most obvious way that they create this problem is by removing any intersectionality in the representations of oppression and flattening characters down into stereotypes for simpler stories to tell. For example, look at the women in Detroit Become Human, because Detroit Become Human is honestly the worst of the two to do this. There is not a single woman that isn't a mother or a prostitute. Human or android, honestly, both. I could do a whole video about this. Alice is the only exception, considering she's a child and can't be a prostitute nor a mom, unless there's way worse things going on that I don't think the writers were brave enough to get into. Or delicate enough to get into. Thank God they didn't do that. But anyways, aside from David Cage's weird Madonna horror complex with women in his work, this also just harms their character depth overall. North's three biggest traits are angry and violent, love interest, and ex-prostitute. But of course, stereotyping isn't a woman-only problem in the writing, as Marcus is pretty much just written to be like a stand-in for Martin Luther King. Or Martin Luther King Jr., sorry. Fortunately, Arcane isn't overtly sexist or cliche in its character writing, but it does have its own issues under this umbrella, like sidelining any character with an ounce of complexity by the end of the show. Whether that's Echo, Jinx, Sabika, or Silco, Undercity people who have like more going on besides just being poor. And then there's Mel, who's also like a minority because she's one of those like arcane type of people. But anyways, Echo, Mel, Jinx, Sabika, Silco, they're all either dead or forgotten. Or if you're Silco, you're both. Both stories trade the satisfaction of a story ending, having all of those loose ends tie up, and having in-depth character arcs and touching storylines be resolved for the convenience of a revolution being easy to understand instead. The way that they do this, another way that they do this at least, is by adhering the story to intense moral frameworks, like I said. This ensures that the revolutionaries remain good guys throughout the whole story. Or in other words, this ensures that they stay likable to the audience. That way, their happy ending still feels deserved. The best example is in Detroit Become Human, and how to succeed in the revolution and getting Kara into Canada because she can't be related to revolutionary. That's not a girl job. Succeed in the revolution and keeping Kara and her family safe. You have to stay as peaceful and non-violent as possible. Like it's a PR campaign. To say that the civil rights movement or the emancipation movement, for the lack of, I don't know if slavery is like censored, so I'm calling it the emancipation movement. But anyways, to say that either of those two historical events were peaceful and nonviolent is an insane judgment to make. Ignoring all of that, saying that either the civil rights movement or the emancipation movement are peaceful and nonviolent is complete delusion. And then on Arcane's side of things, they stay vague about the morals, which may not push any inaccurate ideals like Detroit does, but they also never say anything about the ideals at all. Not definitively, and not about the revolutions. Anyways, season 1 actually does a brilliant juxtaposition between the two different revolutionary figures of Vander and Silco. One that pushes for pacifism and ends up like an upper-class lapdog, being Vander, and one striving for power and freedom by any means necessary and, unsurprisingly, becoming a corrupt crime lord because of it, being Silco. But they're both shown to be unsuccessful in the real mission of liberating their nation. So, within the world of Arcane, how is someone supposed to do it? That question goes unanswered. Like, they try to make Jinx the new revolutionary, but she dies. We never really learn what's right, just all the ways that you do it wrong. Ethics are complicated, and I don't mean to imply that writers are supposed to have a perfectly and completely justifiable moral lesson at the end of any story ever written, but writers do have a certain level of responsibility. They owe their audience something, at least. Think of Chekhov's gun. If you're unaware, it's basically a rule in writing that if you introduce a gun into your story, it should probably later on go off for it to be meaningful in any way, metaphorically speaking. Or for the sake of Detroit and Arcane, if you introduce a revolution, you kind of owe it to your audience for that revolution to have some sort of conclusion. Does it become a failed uprising? Are they liberated from oppression? Detroit tries to answer both of these and give you like the alternate endings based off of your decisions, but Arcane just doesn't answer you. They distract you. They set up the revolution and all of this like class disparity and awful discrimination, and then they go, whoa, Victor has superpowers. We gotta stop him. This is more important. And then, what do you mean class solidarity? No. The audience deserves some sort of answer if you were going to propose the story in the first place. And more importantly, if you are going to propose a revolutionary story, there's another line to be drawn between the revolution and the story. When writers prioritize the story, the drama and the shock and the awe of it, it erases the coherence and authenticity in the revolution they set out to tell in the first place. Reality becomes distorted. On the other hand, Detroit Become Human may have endings where androids quote-unquote win, but is it really winning? We never really see the benefits of it past a little victory speech, some kumbaya singing between androids and humans, and Connor fighting back his inner policeman urge to squash any human rights movement ever. And that's it. Revolution achieved. You guys have rights now. On a serious note, though, grand finales are next to impossible to carry through in any meaningful way when the story itself isn't that meaningful in the first place. So, what happens when you try to give one to a story that struggles to have a meaningful foundation? What happens when you build up this piece of art with cool aesthetics but absolutely no foundation at all? It caves in on itself. To put it very, very simply, ever since the success of the Hunger Games, there has been this big misconception about dystopias. At least, I perceive it to be this way. The idea of dystopias, or revolutions, or whatever you want to call them, being easy or simple to write may be a popular belief because of the popularity of the genre and the oversaturation of the market, for big girl terms here. But a vast majority of these stories fail to really stick their landing when it comes down to it. This is because the centrist writing that's so common within the genre can only go so far. Both of these stories love the revolution look, but they don't want to endorse any revolution talk. Detroit Become Human insistently harkens back to figures like MLK, Harriet Tubman, or African American theory and thoughts on freedom and liberation in general. But then the game forces you, and therefore androids, to earn said freedom through compliance and good behavior. The same goes with Zonites. Arcane goes into intense detail about the oppression that the Undercity, Zon, faces, from everyday aspects like air quality and crime rates to the opportunity gap, police brutality, lack of civil representation, and so on. We see countless examples of how Zon is stomped on by the counselor's boots. And then at the end of the show, they do a total 180. There's no liberation. We get a we're all in this together type of battle finale and nothing else. Like, was it all a misunderstanding? Or stubbornness? The argument of the centrist is both sides are bad in one way or another, or alternatively, both sides are good in one way or another, or like both sides have good or bad or whatever. So there's few important differences between them anyways. Even if you are trying to acknowledge nuance, though, there's not much of a path forward if everyone went, I see both sides, and that's it. We're stuck in a stalemate. This is the central problem. pun intended, of the writing of these pieces. Instead of having a coherent and authentic argument behind your revolution and thus redoing your entire story from scratch, the most common solution is much easier. The illusion of misunderstanding from earlier. It may not offend anyone, but it disappoints everyone. Stories cannot make everybody happy. The necessary happy ending of a revolution is usually in liberation. Liberation requires optimism, much like how failure requires pessimism, but optimism is clearly not as simple as declaring victory and moving on. Optimism is made up of both hope and knowledge of what to hope for, not just blind delusion that things are going to be better. Both stories lack this because they both rely on assimilation back into an oppressive society. Playing by the oppressor's rules is the only way to get freedom, so how much of a victory is it really if you just beg someone for rights while promising to be on your best behavior? Androids may get voting rights and freedom from unpaid labor, but what about the larger social failures that set up these problems in the first place? What about all of the androids in deactivation camps or the unemployment rates driving everyone into poverty? Zon is never even acknowledged as a sovereign nation either. They may give, Savika a seat at their counselor's table. Meanwhile, people stay in poverty. Zonites mourn their lost soldiers in a battle they didn't need to fight. And people go to trudge on with their daily lives. But not every dystopia or revolution story is like this. After all, Hunger Games, the most overused comparison example for any dystopia ever, I know I'm original here, started the massive 21st century trend of dystopias being the most popular sci-fi genre in the first place. And even before Suzanne Collins, there are brilliant authors out there like Ursula K. Le Guin, Octavia Butler, Ray Bradbury, George Orwell, and so on. But Hunger Games, for the approachable example, doesn't end their story with Katniss winning the Hunger Games, or even Katniss killing President Snow, the central nemesis of the entire trilogy. The story ends, and Katniss finally lets herself rest when the system itself is truly broken down, and when children are free from the Hunger Games, coin is gone, and the districts are abolished. Because, in the end, a revolution can never truly end until their people are truly free. Or else, what is the point of fighting?